Hi everyone, here we are in the next lecture, and now we're going to talk about machine use. Okay, so we'll be using different machines to be seeing how they are effective, what to do with those machines, and mainly how are they different to free weights. Now so far we've done exercises with free weights. Free weights obviously are those where there's no attachment. So how is it different to a machine, or what is different in a machine? What are the advantages, what are the cons? When it comes to advantages, now one, you can sit, it's comfortable, the machine is all organized, there's a display board, it tells you what to do. Okay, so that becomes one. The second becomes the fact that you can adjust the weights pretty easily. As you noticed when we were doing the bent over barbell rows or when we were doing the squats, adjusting the weights becomes a bit of a problem. If you have to put maybe 10 kilos and then another 15, there's a lot of difference. Here, on the contrary, there's just a small pin. You want to choose 3 plates, you can do that. You can choose 2 plates and so on and so forth. The other advantage of a machine is that you can adjust it to suit your particular body type. Okay, so if you've got longer limbs, you can adjust these settings to make sure that the pushing pad there, the roller, is at the end range, or it can be higher, so on and so forth. Okay, so there's a lot of ideal body adjustments that can be done. Now, what's the disadvantage maybe of a machine? It's expensive, most important. Okay, to get this type of a machine home would definitely be more expensive. But the reason why people prefer machines, one is the fact that they are safer because the range is fixed. So now if I'm going to do leg extensions over here, or if I'm going to do squats, or maybe even a bench press, okay, the range is fixed. I don't have to worry about the bar traveling out of its predicted path. So when we're looking at exercise and use of machines, there are some specific times and places where machines play a specific role. One of the uses of using machines is the fact that as you're using them, the path being fixed, it allows you to also isolate a muscle. So now when I'm doing leg extensions for the quadriceps, this allows me to specifically load the knee joint and not engage the hip joint. Now one might say, isn't that not functional? Is it not that this will not engage and teach the body to work together with others, what we've been talking about in free weights? Yes, of course. But then the plus point here is that someone who's maybe suffering from an injury, especially say someone who's suffering from lower back pain, or someone who's got any issue because of which they cannot do a squat or a deadlift or any other exercise with weights, that person is able to sit comfortably, the back is rested, the support behind, and still focus on that isolated muscle which you want to strengthen. This also helps with those who want to create an optimum muscle balance between your hamstrings and your quadriceps. Okay? Instead of working in say an exercise like a squat with a free weight, which works predominantly the hamstrings, which predominantly works, the quadriceps, the gluteals, the lower back. Here you're able to specifically put in some effort on maybe something like a hamstring curl, which we are going to demonstrate now. So yes, by now you've got all the advantages of using machines and the cons as well. Okay, so let's do this exercise and check some typical correct things to do and maybe some mistakes which are done as well. All right, so here we are. You anchor. Always make sure that if you're doing an open chain movement like this, anchor the end point. Okay, don't keep this loose and do. Unless you're doing it specifically for maybe a sport like swimming, where you're using it for increasing their ankle strength so that they're able to flip in the water. But otherwise, for majority of exercises, you anchor, get into dorsiflexion, lock your ankle. From here, make sure you sit back, shoulder blades locked, nice and ready, grip firm, hip planted firmly into the machine. And then from here, it's up, 1, down, okay, 1, down. Now, different machines will have different parts. Okay, you have different companies that manufacture. There's no worldwide sort of uniformity in machines. But when you do these, you will notice that some machines give you a slightly different path compared to others. Seat-wise, you can always adjust the seat to get it further back or no. But to remember one point about this exercise is to make sure that the movement which is happening, the fulcrum here, is in the same line as this joint here. okay, where the movement happens. So when they're both together, you get much specific loading on the knee joint and specifically on the patellar tendon. You don't want excess load or weights sometimes in an offbeat position. One drawback of a machine, if it is not done with good angles and good loading, is that the machine can load your joints inappropriately. Okay, so let's assume if I was sitting where my knees were right here, due to the machine or due to my possible not knowing it, make sure that while you're doing this, get your positions right. And generally, if machines are being used, make sure that they are being used from a good company so that you don't end up injuring yourself due to being in some awkward position with the machine. Okay, so again, to show you, even though this is a machine and even though this is an isolation movement, make sure that you engage as many muscles as possible. So dorsiflexion, grip, shoulder blades, push into the bench, push into the seat, okay, and everything works together. So even though I'm using only my quadricep muscles to do extension, you have to engage the core as well, engage the glutes, engage the retractors, the grip as well. Okay, so breathe in, out, in. From a point of view of engagement of the muscles here, we're looking at using your VMO, okay, you're looking at using all the muscles, the intermedius as well, and we're also looking at using your vastus lateralis as well. If you want to target the lateralis, okay, generally MRI studies have shown that you keep your toes in, it will target it much better. Okay, you want to work the whole quadricep muscle, go straight. You want to work more the VMO, okay, which is generally what is weaker between these quadricep muscle groups, then go with your toes out. Okay, so these become the variations for using this particular machine. We'll move on next to the hamstring curls. Now, as you can see, all these machines are pretty safe, but make sure you know how to operate. Read the directions. Okay, if you don't know, get somebody to show. As safe as machines are, if you don't know what to do, sometimes just pulling something out which snaps out at high speed can cause injuries. So be a bit aware of how to use it. Read directions. If not, then talk to an instructor. Make sure you know how to use it in the right position. Okay, that should help you keep away from a lot of injuries. We'll move on next to the hamstring curls. So now here we are with the leg curl machine. This is a different machine compared to the one we used previously. First thing, set yourself safely in position. Okay, there are all these different sort of engagements that you have to do. When you get into any gym, you can read up and you'll get info on how to use it. Okay, but make sure you know how to use it before you use it, right? So now in this leg curl machine, what is it that is different compared to what we did in the previous one? The previous one, you were obviously working on the quadriceps into extension. Here, we're working the opposite movement. Now, one move which actually does a real benefit and which is very hard to isolate when you're training not in a gym, okay, is this particular movement. So when you're doing this with the resistance there, okay, this is one area which is very hard to isolate. There are some movements which can be done for hamstrings standing, but actual knee flexion under resistance with various resistance that you can do becomes very hard. So let's first just see how this is done, okay, to engage the hamstrings and to do knee flexion using the hamstring muscles. So first, sit back, okay, shoulder blades retracted, grip firm, ankles into dorsiflexion, okay. From here, go in, get a full range and up. 1. Now as I do this, points to note, core is still engaged, glutes are still engaged, retractors are still switched on, okay. So what it is not is this, okay, where I'm just switched on, the upper body is not connected. You have to make sure 1, 2, retract, engage the core. One important point, and a lot of people miss out on this aspect of training, is the full range, okay. Make sure you get complete range. You want resistance to be here so that your hamstrings get strong and resistance in the outer range as well, okay. So common mistakes people make sometimes while doing hamstring curls or most exercises. They don't get into full range. What they'll do is once they come around here, they'll stop and they'll head back and they'll just do this. Now what is this range? Is this the complete range or that your hamstrings allow you? Obviously not. You want to go into as much flexion possible and as much extension, whether it's bicep curls or hamstrings. And the hamstrings are called sometimes the leg biceps, and the reason is because action is very similar. Okay, so when you're doing this, again, full range, ideally try not to touch the weight. One more small tip, try not to touch the weight when you're using any weight stack to rest. Okay, try to keep it where it does what I call a feather touch. It touches just like a feather in between the plates, touch and back. Okay, under control, feather touch, just like a light tap and back. Okay, again, control, light tap and back. Don't rest. Now look at the difference between resting. I rest, 1 repetition, rest, 2, rest. Especially if you're working on the endurance phase of preparation. The moment you rest, you're taking tension off the muscle. So the muscle is not going to have the endurance to be able to take tension over time for greater length. You want that tension to be such that it can be maintained. So if there's load, there's still load, load again, load again. There's no point at which I go, boom, rest for 1 second, back again, rest for 1 second. So make sure that that movement is constantly having load. The whole idea is about load and movement, right? You don't want at any point to have less load. So again, a very good exercise. If machines are needed, they are needed mainly for these type of exercises, which cannot be done by yourself in the gym. Okay, I mean by yourself at home. You would need something like this. And one of the reasons why gyms become so different and important for people to use, especially athletes, is because gyms have all these. How many homes will have machines like these, right? Because of the expenses, because of the space. So gyms have their own advantage of training over home because of the fact that it allows you to do so many different variations. But yes, while using machines, make sure there's full range. Make sure you know how to sit in that posture. Engage everything possible. As the more muscles you engage, the more coordination comes in and the more likelihood of that strength helping you in that particular sport. Okay. So while teaching your athletes, teach them good posture to be there and to do a full range. Let them not be just doing an exercise where they're just sitting and maybe talking to somebody and just going, this and thinking that, oh, I'm working on this. It has to be an involved exercise, okay? This is something where you commit to a movement. So just check the differences again. 1, okay, versus hold, engage your retractors, lower back pressed, abs involved, ankles involved, breathing also involved, full range, right? So hope this becomes clear. We'll move to the next exercise now.